Okay.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show which never ends. With an anthropomorphic hen, come inside, come inside. Come join me and Viv, talk about creatures that live in the darkness of your id. Come inside, come inside. Come inside, believe me folks, it's great. Streaming on the last Wednesday at 8. Come inside and hear us, well you know. We'll take you places you want to go. Come and see the show. The Comedy Rhino. Come and see the show. It's great, you know. They're behind us boxes in criminal in a box. There's Canadian Dave Scott. Come inside, come inside. Goodness, it's his nibs, the one and only in Squid. Exposing late monster fibs. Come inside, come inside. Come inside, the show's about to start. An insane mix of science, class and art. Come and see the show. It's good, you know. Come and see the show. The last Wednesday show.
Let me get your call.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Last Wednesday show. And this week is a particularly special show because our guest has actually shown up on time, and we're all here. Ladies and gentlemen, down the bottom is Ray Harwood, who is our special guest for tonight. And I also want to make sure, just in case you don't know, we have Lee Fallows, who is a poet, raconteur, and generally nice guy from somewhere in the north of England. Is Staffordshire in the north? Or are you in the middle? Okay, sort of in the north. And we have Dave Scott from CFZ Canada. We have Richard Freeman, who is my old Richard. Do your thing. We have Richard Freeman, world famous zoologist and explorer, and we have Ian Scribbs, all the way from Wales. And in the studio, we have, in the audience room, we have Simon from Denmark, and we have Chantal from South Africa, amongst others of you. So, welcome to the show. And who's going to start off? Ray, what have you been doing recently?
Let's see. Well, we're just coming out of winter here. I'm in the Northwest, the United States. And so basically, cryptozoology-wise, you kind of look through the snow for footprints and stuff like that. We had a hard winter, and we lost all our cryptozoologists here. We lost Dr. Meldrum, passed away, who was the pinnacle, sort of Sasquatch research, and an anthropologist at the university here in Idaho. And then they have Scott Violet, who was Squatch America. He would tour all over and give speeches and whatnot. He passed away. And Stephen Strufert, who had Bigfoot books in Willow Creek, Bluff Creek area, which most of the people who would go to see the Patterson-Gimlin site and those would stop by, and he would show them the way. And he had his own blog called the Bigfoot blog. And he was in on that, on the book project to relocate the Patterson-Gimlin film site. Let's see what else.
I didn't know he died.
Yeah, he passed away just recently, and then the personage here that was responsible for all the pretty much the rise of YouTube, investigating and YouTube touring and stuff was Adam Williams, or Adam the Woo. He passed away, and he sort of just made the format for like the the videotaping stuff like roadside attractions and Bigfoot researching and sort of. And he passed away. He was only, I think, 52, and Steven Strufert was, I think, even younger than that. So we lost just about the whole American base for cryptozoology. So that was strange. Let's see what else.
I know Stephen Strufus. I know a lot of people fell out with him, but I always got on fine with him.
Yeah, sometimes I'd get along with him, and sometimes he just almost borderline Asperger's, when like no filter. So whatever he was saying, you could always tell he didn't put on airs. So if he thought it was BS, he would, he'd let people know, and they had a hard time with that. So just, he lived in Willow Creek, which is Bluff Creek, where the film footage came. And when you go into that area, it's tourist themed to Bigfoot. There's Bigfoot carvings everywhere. There was Bigfoot Burger, Bigfoot Books, Bigfoot Steakhouse, Bigfoot Pizza, Bigfoot Hotel. Everything is Bigfoot themed in that area. And there's redwood trees, and the fog drifts through, and there's streams and rivers and ferns. So it's the ideal classic Bigfoot, eco zone and stuff. So he was really important in that area. And then when Evel Knievel's son, Robbie Knievel, made a Bigfoot movie, he went there, and Stephen, showed him where to go, and they stopped in Bigfoot Books, which is the thing that everyone does when they're making a documentary. They made a movie, a horror film called Willow Creek. And it's, of course, starts in Willow Creek, and then it migrates into Bluff Creek, where they get dispatched by some evil squatch. But, and Stephen was in that movie. He was in multiple movies and documentaries. So, yeah, was very opinionated. He was mostly a book collector, can't remember the technical term, but he was a bookman.
Bibliophile.
Yeah, a bibliophile. He'd collect rare books, study rare books, sell rare books, and he was an exchange. So people from all over the world would seek him out to find rare books. And then since he was right next to Bigfoot Burger and down the street was Bigfoot Motel, he initially chose the word Bigfoot Books just to fit into the community. And then gradually so many people came to him, and people had, would bring him sighting reports and things like that. So gradually he became known as the expert of the area. And he was opinionated, of course, but so was Meldrum. Either one of them would have been useless if they were not honest. So they just gave you the truth, what they considered to their truth. Yeah. And Dr. Meldrum had, he would get frustrated with me and say some stuff as well. So Stephen, if I was on the wrong track or whatever. So, but yeah, those two guys I respected, and then of course Scott Violet. So anyway, that was kind of sad that those guys all passed away. So, but yeah, let's see. I rode the horse all up and down through the upper northwest, Selkirk Mountain Range, and up near the Canadian border, and then on into northwest Montana. And I found a couple interesting things. Well, one thing that happened that was kind of interesting was on the Patterson Gimlin itself. One of the arguments was that Bob Harmonius, the guy who said he was in the suit, one of the ponies was his, and he said, I think it was Peanuts, and he said that horse is not spooky. So the one part of the film where he describes the horse bucking and then he kind of gets shifted and gets off the horse, he said that wouldn't happen. But I have a horse that's similar, and I was riding up through the mountains and it was raining. I think it's in a little bit of that area is in my film that I sent to you guys today. And and there was some deer sitting on the trail as we rode up, me and some other horseback riders. And all of a sudden, a big buck deer came running from the woods with something chasing it and ran into the other deers, which ran into the horses. And I tell you what, even a horse that's very mellow will start bucking when something like that happens. So anyway, so I was kind of on the Patterson side on that because the one lady flew off her horse and landed on the back of her neck. And yeah, it was really interesting. And then the horse and the, I'll do it with my fingers so you can see what happened. The horse and the deer were fighting with their hoofs. It's really interesting.
Jeez.
So that was interesting.
What did you find out? What had chased the buck out of the woods?
No, I never did. I mean, with my brain, I was thinking, I hope it's Bigfoot. But I really didn't see what was chasing it, but it could have been anything. But yeah, and anyway, so and then my son and I, he had a cabin in Montana, which was right up on the edge of Flathead Lake, and like you were saying before, that's where they have the like a Flathead lake monster, like a plesiosaur type of thing. So we went out on the lake. We chartered a boat and went out on the lake, and it would be fun to. We were searching the shores and things like that, and a storm came out, and the waves were huge, and so all the refrigerator in there with all the beers and the sodas and everything went over, and the cans were flying everywhere, and so the boat captain guide man, he turned around and started heading for the shore. And the waves were, it was a pretty big boat, but anyway, the waves were up high, really high for a lake. And in one of the waves, I saw something like riding the wave up. And I don't know, my subconscious probably thought it was the lake monster. I don't know if it was a log or what they call a giant white sturgeon, which is a really big fish they have there, or what. But I saw something in the wave, and I thought, whatever it was probably what's been reported. So that was really interesting. And then we rode into the Bob Marshall Wilderness, which is no roads in there or anything. It's complete wilderness, and it's a huge area that they set aside for just nature to do whatever it wants. So we were riding in there, and I found something that was kind of interesting. It was a hollow log, and now we went up on horseback, so we were really far up in nature. So and off the regular beaten track, and I found these hollow logs lying down, hollow through, like the kind you see in a cartoon or whatever. So anyway, something had split the logs and taken these big poles made out of the tip of lodgepole pines and pried open those logs to get whatever was inside. So that was kind of interesting. And then, I think I didn't hear it, but my son said he heard some kind of vocalization that he couldn't pinpoint what it was, which, is pretty much meaningless, but it's exciting, So then we found this one alpine lake, and we decided to camp on there. So we, got the horses all tied up and whatnot. So I thought it'd be fun to do a funny banjo song. So I got my banjo and I started playing this funny song. And when I stopped on the other side of this remote lake, which is just pretty much the other side of the lake is pure wilderness too. As soon as I stopped, there was a big wood knock, like really loud, like, and it just echoed across the lake. And it's the same thing, you don't know what it was or anything like that. But it was kind of a fun, interesting thing. Because my son, he's the person that if you even mention, like Bobo on it, if you've seen Finding Bigfoot, he always, oh, that sounds like Squatch. If I say anything like that, I will get a thumping. So he's a big stone worker, so he's a big guy, and my wife's Swedish, so he's really big. So if I say anything about Bigfoot, I could be in peril. But even he heard it and couldn't explain it. But anyway, so there's that. And then I collect like what I consider artifacts. So this last summer and winter in Montana, I've collected stuff that looks like ancient stone tools, but they're in modern butcher sites. Like you find the bones, and then you'd find stone tools that ought to be with fossils, but instead they're with like year old or couple months year olds butcher sites. And there's, I mean, I've already showed them to other people, and there's always there's always reasons it could be something else, and I realize that, especially with the rise of uh, primitive technologies that people use for wilderness survival hobbies and whatnot. So I found this. This looks like a Olduvai Gorge type chopper with flint chips, and that was near about a 4-month-old elk butcher site. And then this one looks really like something Dr. Leakey would have found. I don't know if you could say that. It's a cobble of quartzite, and then there's purposeful flakes detached on both sides to make it sharp like a hand axe. And then if you look really close, you can see microflakes chipped off from usage for chopping wood or something. So, yeah, I don't know if those are made by like an experimental archaeologist, a primitive skills person, or a Sasquatch. I don't know, but anyway, it's still interesting enough to document. So, the more information you get, and that's one thing I argue about with Dr. Meldrum, because I was finding things like this and what's in the film, and other things like these long poles that they would take all the sticks off and use them to whip the pine cones to get the seeds out. And I found a couple of those poles, stuff like that. But Dr. Meldrum said they don't have opposable thumbs, apparently, based on the castings found by Paul Freeman in Washington, hand castings. So he said that that's what he said. And he says, and I says, well, I'm pretty sure from an archaeological standpoint, these aren't natural rocks. They're modified. They're natural rocks, but the material has been transported from somewhere else and then modified into some kind of crude tools. So I said someone had to do that, whether it's a human or some Bigfoot like primate. And then his response was, well, you're going to feel like an idiot when they finally catch one of these things. but the thing is Jane Goodall already documented wild apes using tools. And one captive ape named Coco was actually making stone tools to achieve access to food, like cracking nuts and coconuts and whatnot. Learned how to do flint knapping, which is taking the flint and taking chips off to make a usable sharp edge. So anyway, that was my year.
You've got a piece of you've got a little film that you want to show, haven't you?
Right. Yeah, it's just pretty much showing you what's out there in the field that people aren't looking for. And of course, if the new film about the Patterson and Gimlin turns out to be accurate and the film is fake, then I don't know what that means for cryptozoology when it comes to hominids or primates in North America. But in any case, yes, I find things in the woods here that you would see where there is primates, where there is apes. So, and Jane Goodall found termite ant fishing and those kind of tools. Making cups to get water out of leaves and whatnot. And these same artifacts are here that you would find where there's a population of these advanced apes. So that's it. Yeah. So
okay, let's see if I can share the screen without messing it up, which I'm not sure if I can.
Really good.
I think I got that right and it worked properly.
Yeah, that was pretty good. So anyway, when you see that mound in the Northwest, um, they have a certain species of ant. I can't remember the name of it, but they build these huge mounds, and in the center there's an orifice, and they, do their job going in and out, bringing food in and out, and cleaning out the dead ants and everything out of these orifices. And then so twice, just like chimps and bonobos do, I've found those modified rods stuck in the orifice, and then they use it to, you could stick it in there. I see, I was there in the fall, so there was no ants. The ants are way down in the earth, but the stick was still there. And if you looked in the very foreground to the left, when I walked up, and you could see it in the film, there was two other rods just like it. And those rods are made from a reed that is an Apiarian zone weed, which means someone had to get that reed from an area probably 400 or 500 yards away, where they have the reeds that grow out of the, near the water. Get it there, bring it all the way back to the ant hill, and strip it of all the cortex, which is like a flaky bark-like substance, and then remove all the sticks, the branch things, make it into like an arrow shaft. And in fact, it's the same way that Native Americans used to make arrows. You get these Apiarian zone weeds, and then straighten the shaft. But this one weed, the shafts are already straight, and all you have to do is, debark them, and they're perfect for all kinds of tools. And twice I found those reeds modified like that in context with anthills.
Good
So they
God.
kind of drink the ants like
So,
a straw.
like, it's not definitive, but it is a ape, like the ape material culture. You do find this where there's populations of apes.
So there may have been DNA on that at the top where they would have put their mouth.
Richard.
Sorry.
They dip the stick in, the ants bite onto it because they think it's something intruding, or the termites. Then the ape pulls it out and licks them off. That's how chimpanzees do it. All of the known apes are tool users. Orangutans fashion spears by sharpening it with their teeth. The end of
Oh wow, I did not know that one.
They'll jab fish with it and catch fish. Orang pendek is supposed to do that as well. They'll all use clubs, pick up branches and use clubs against leopards and things. They'll throw rocks. They'll use rocks to crack open nuts and things like that. And so all of the apes can manipulate objects very well with their hands.
And we see a lot of those here, like the artifacts from, like you'll see a bed of pine needles, in areas where there's not, well, just 5 or 10 feet off the road or the trail, most have seen no human. It's people seem to stay in a safe zone unless it's a hunter or something. So you'll see these, carpets of pine needles, and then all of a sudden you'll see, a rock, like say like this, sitting on top of the pine needles, where there's no way it could have got there. There's no hill, there's no cliff. So something had to throw that rock, whether it was a human or an ape. But I see that quite often. And the long poles that have been debarked and, cleaned up for whipping the pine needles off. And also if there's a squirrel way up in a tree, you can knock it down with that. So there's all kinds of tools I found. They all have alternative explanations, but if you go to an area where apes live, you would find the same things here. I didn't even know about the spear thing. I'll have to look into, because where's that thing? That dog had it a minute ago. Where'd you put it?
So there would be DNA on these objects, wouldn't there? Especially the pipe.
Depending on how long it's been out in the wild.
See, this is what I think is like a tree knocker. It's chewed off on both sides, and it's you can't really see how big it is. Well, now you can. See, it's just about the size of maybe 2.5 feet, maybe. I don't know what that is in your guys' measurements, but anyway.
We use feet and inches and miles.
Oh, okay.
No one thinks in kilometers and centimeters.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Like that.
But you can see the impact marks here. You can see impact marks there, see? So someone has been banging on stuff with this. You can see impact marks here. So like forensically, this is definitely a modified stick that has use wear from hitting. And I found that in an area where the tree knocks or wood knocks have been heard. So there's that one. And then this one's not as spectacular, but it's exactly the same length. And I found a whole bunch of these modified sticks. And someone was telling me the length dictates the tonality to a certain extent. So if, say, it is a squatch, and they're trying to signal, and they have a certain tonality that they have to maintain to be identified, they would have to make them the same length. So I probably found like 20 of these things that are about the same.
Are they the same wood?
I think so. Yeah, this is, I'm assuming, it feels kind of heavy, but the preponderance of the trees up in this area in the Northwest are ponderosa pine.
Mhm.
And the reason is I guess it was in the 1920s, they had what they called a great burn. And this whole area burned. It was a massive fire. And so a lot of the Douglas fir and great pine and I don't remember all the species, but they burned so far back that they couldn't repropagate. And so not Douglas fir, but the ponderosa pine actually was more thriving in that environment of charcoal and whatnot. And so it thrives now. So they're everywhere. But before it was there was giant cedar trees and other, pine family things. But after the Great Burn, they were put out by the weed tree, which was the ponderosa. So
Mhm.
almost everything out there now is ponderosa pine in this area. But up into Montana, it switches up. The altitude grows up a little bit, and they have lodgepole pines, which they call them lodgepole pines, is because it was what the Plains Indians used to make those teepee poles, because they're perfectly straight. So the poles I found that they were using to pry open logs were lodgepole pine tips that had been modified.
I think that if we go back a bit to the stone implements you found, I can see that there is a possibility that those are made by survivalists using prehistoric techniques.
Right.
But I can't imagine that any human being is going to be fishing for ants and sucking live ants off the straw.
Right. Well, especially, you could say, oh, well, children like to mess with ants. And then they say that, like one of the excuses for the structures, we find structures all the time. And that they say that, oh, it's children building these structures. But for in this area, I've been riding around for 12 years, and I haven't once seen children building structures. Of course, I haven't seen Sasquatch building them either. But I mean, the excuse that kids are making these tree knockers and of course, I don't think children can make these stone tools. It takes a tremendous amount of energy to chip quartzite or basalt, which is this. But it's possible though. But I don't personally see any children running around the woods at all. It's either it's too cold in the winter, it's too hot in the summer, and they're too busy on their computers to do any of that anyway.
There's the key.
Yeah, they're all looking at their little phones.
Yeah.
Honestly though, and they have what they call huckleberries, which is like a blueberry, a wild blueberry, and the Native Americans pick them. And in this area, a lot of people go up to the woods and pick huckleberries when it's huckleberry season in the spring. But their mom wants huckleberries. They don't want them building these little structures and whatnot and making tree knockers. So I don't buy the children out there, faking realistic archaeological tools. You know what I'm saying? But that's
That's highly unlikely.
Yeah. And they say, oh, well, Boy Scouts could be doing. I haven't seen a Boy Scout in 12 years up there. But I haven't seen any Bigfoots either. So, but there's one guy who has it's called the Huckleberry Farm or something like that. And he sells huckleberry jelly. It's like a roadside attraction. And he hires Flathead Indians off the Flathead Indian Reservation and Blackfoot Indians off the Blackfoot Reservation to pick huckleberries for him. So the only other people up there when you're picking those in that area are bears, which in huckleberry season there's a lot of bears. And the other one, according to the Indians, Native Americans, Sasquatch goes up and picks them. So the guy who owns this company, he told anybody who got a picture of a Sasquatch from these Indian tribes that he would pay them for the photographs. So after 2 seasons of after 2 seasons of huckleberry picking with the Indians taking the pictures, he got like 22 pictures, and some of them are pretty interesting. So yeah. Anyway, one lady, she got one, and you can see a full face, and I don't know, it's pretty compelling. So anyway, and he he started, he became a researcher after that, stuff like that. First, it was just a challenge because he didn't believe in it. He thought, oh, it's just, the Native Americans got these legends, and one of the reasons they wanted to pay more money for the huckleberries, they didn't want to be killed by a Sasquatch. So they took the pictures, and sure enough, they got some. So that was interesting.
I'd love to see those. Has any of you guys ever seen these pictures?
No. Whereabouts are they published?
What's that?
Whereabouts are they published?
Oh, I can probably find out for you, and I'll send it to Jonathan. He can send. I think I have yours too, Richard. Your emails. So I'll if I can find it, because he does have a website where he posted this, and then he also interviews the Indians. After they bring up the photograph.
I'd be very interested to see them.
Me too.
Especially the face. The face one is like, it looks just like Patterson and Gimlin's Patty Bigfoot if you saw its face. It's wide. It's got a squished down nose. Big fat cheekbones. Leathery skin. It's pretty good. And then they have a couple in trees. Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Now, whilst on the subject of Patterson and Gimlin, we would be remiss if we didn't at least briefly talk about the latest claims that have been made about a documentary, which I don't think any of us have managed to see yet, but there's allegedly a documentary out there which disproves the Patterson Gimlin movie. You haven't seen it yet, have you, Ray?
No, but I did see one still photograph from it.
Tell us about that.
Okay. Well, when you were upstairs getting some water, we were talking about it, and basically 2 years ago, I was in Yakima, Washington, where Patterson and Gimlin lived and had their horse ranches and whatnot. And they were having a birthday party for Bob Gimlin, the one that was on the horse with the rifle protecting Patterson when he did the filming. Of course, that's all alleged, right? But as far as a witness, if he was in court, it would be what everyone would consider an excellent witness. He's just as honest and believable as you could be, just like a John Wayne type character in a cowboy movie. He's a real, he's just a perfect cowboy, and he was harassed his whole life after that, and he didn't make any money off it, but he always kept, to the story. And I met him a couple times, and really nice guy, really funny. But anyway, that's when Mark, the guy who made this new movie, was there, and Jeff Meldrum was there, and he filmed him and interviewed him. And then, of course, Bob Gimlin was there. Bob Gimlin was probably there singing in the background, but Bob Gimlin was there, and he interviewed him. Bob Harmonius, the one who claimed to wear the monster suit, was there, and he was interviewed. And then Roger Patterson, who passed away shortly, within a couple of years after the film, his son Clint Patterson was there, and he was filmed. And then myself was filmed, and a couple other researchers were like second tier type researchers got interviewed. But that's when they first started making the film. And then they made 3 films that day. Not they, but there was 3 films being made that day, that weekend. And one was Flash of Beauty. And they ended up cutting that up and putting it in different sections. And they put me up on one that was Sasquatch archaeology. And I discussed some artifacts that I'd found that I thought might be related to, some sort of hominid in North America. So anyway, to make a long story longer, is then they filmed like a funny TV show, and they asked us dumb questions, and then they had a hypnotist hypnotize us and ask us dumb questions. So that was embarrassing. But then and then the third one was this film capturing Bigfoot was being made there. And this was when it first started. So they hadn't found, like, they were filming everything they could because this was Bob Gimlin's last public appearance. So they wanted to get as much as they could. And unknowingly, one of Dr. Meldrum's last hurrahs. So they interviewed everybody. They got a lot of footage. And it was, they put it all together. It was 3.5 hours. And of course, no one's going to sit through that. So they cut it out. And I guess it's kind of fortunate because I got cut out, because I don't remember what I was rambling about. So, and then they cut out most of our, like, the second tier guys. And then they kept the other ones. But they started to see where they were going to go with the film, especially when Mark got... someone found out he was doing this research and said, hey, I got this film. Apparently said, oh, I just happened to have this film, this found footage that was in a safe, locked away at an aerospace place, photographic place, where the guy who processed it has passed away, left it to his daughter, and she overheard that he's making a Bigfoot film, something like that story. So anyway, so it migrates from Yakima and Bob Gimlin's birthday and the conference that weekend. And then the film kind of morphed into, hey, it looks like we got something bigger than just, Bob Gimlin's exit out of the Bigfoot community. And we have this found footage, which is like earth shattering and could destroy the whole multi-million-dollar industry of Sasquatch. So, so he started going that way, which makes sense because he has this footage. And so the photograph I saw did look like the same Bigfoot as Patty and the Patterson-Gimlin footage from 1967. But this found footage was supposedly from 1966, a year earlier. And it's supposed to be, and I haven't seen it in context with actual Bob Gimlin, Roger Patterson, but a different person than Bob Harmonius in the suit. Someone who is skinnier and taller, so the Bigfoot looks different, but similar. The exo stuff is similar. The breasts and the hair and that kind of stuff. So that's why people come to the conclusion, yeah, it's a suit, and it's just someone else wearing it, and it's not in Bluff Creek anymore. It's in some other wooded area. So they're thinking, okay, this is probably like a trial run, and it's like 40 seconds. And of course, the famous one's like, 57 seconds or 59 seconds or something. And it's like shaky and stuff, and it's the same backstory and things like that. So I was talking to other people about it. I guess it was day before yesterday. And I was able to see a still photo from it. And that's exactly what it looks like. The same Bigfoot, but skinny. And so initially I thought, well, maybe I should start studying UFOs at this point. because I think this is gonna this is where it's going. And then I started, when you're thinking about something, you go to sleep, and it just all works out when you're asleep. And I woke up thinking, I wonder if you could take the original Patterson Gimlin film and run it through AI, which people do once in a while, and put that same subject into a different ecozone and make it skinnier. And so I put it into, I think it was Chat GBT, and I put the photo of Patty the Bigfoot in there, and I told it to make it skinnier and put it in the wooded area instead of the dry stream bed, and it did. So, and as you can see with the Mickey Mouse movie, you can make people do whatever you want. So, and then if you made it with AI and then transferred it onto a 8mm footage and then showed it, it could be pretty compelling evidence that it's, you could fake it, is what I'm saying. And then who's to say it was made in 1966? I mean, because you can take Bob Gimlin and a photo of Bob Gimlin, a photo of Roger Patterson, and set them into the AI and into and tell it, make these people putting on an ape suit on this third person, and it'll do it. And I just have the cheap stuff. If you have a high quality AI, you can make some pretty impressive stuff, as you've already seen.
Sure. I have heard, and I don't know
Or
how
it's
true-
real.
I've heard, and I don't know how true it is, that Patterson's widow and son have both said that it was a fake in this document.
Right. So this is what people have been telling me. So, of course, Roger Patterson's son, Clint, is a very young child when his father passed away. He wasn't there, but he also says that, yeah, he remembers his dad burning the suit in a trash can behind the house. And he also says that it was basically a con job. It was fake. So that's a pretty good witness. It's an expert witness there. But then, well, not an expert witness, but I don't remember what they call it in court, but an expert witness would be like a filmographer came up and, it's, or something like that. But okay, so there is that. And then, see, the thing is about this is it could be that the whole thing is a hoax, the first film or the second film, or both. So you have to put that into the gears there. But I lost my train of thought. What was the question again? Oh, about them saying it's fake. What if, they could have been paid to say it was fake. They could have been embarrassed about the whole thing because they've been teased about it their whole life. So finally it's vindication. It could be any number of things. The most what do they call it? Well, anyway, the most probable is that they really think it's fake. They weren't there when it was filmed either way. And the most obvious thing to think, well, if there's no Bigfoot, the guy needed money. Roger had cancer. He needed a way for money to take care of his family when he passed away, which he knew was coming. And it did make Diatley, which is the brother-in-law, made a huge amount of money off the film. So I'm sure some of that went to the family. And she had the rights to some of the film. So it was a source of income. So she had a good reason to go along with it. And now maybe there's a reason to go along with the other narrative financially. So I don't know. I guess anyone's guess is good. I haven't seen, I wish I'd seen the film, then I could take a better perspective on it.
Lee, is that you typing?
He's tree knocking.
No, it's me.
All right.
Oh, that's okay. Sorry, Lee.
I was tapping on my stone tool.
But Ray, if Clint remembers Roger burning the suit,
Yeah, I didn't really know how to answer the question because I don't.
Mm.
I mean, I've heard the same things you guys have heard. I just don't know what to make of it without, I'd like to really see the film. But in my opinion, this is a great thing that happened. Either way, because it's just like the original film. No one will ever be able to prove it's fake or real. And it'll open up a whole nother mystery and a whole nother chapter to the Patterson and Gimlin mystery. So in my opinion, people are angry about the guy and stuff like this for making the film, or it might hurt Bob Gimlin's feelings. Well, Bob Gimlin's been getting this ridicule his whole life, so it's nothing new. So he can handle it. I mean, he was a boxer in the Navy. He was a rodeo rider. He was a cowboy. He rode his horse from Mexico to Canada. The guy's a tough guy. He can handle it. So I think it's the best thing that happened to cryptozoology in a long time because it opens up a whole new area of research and of debate and of, argumentative stuff that you come up with new ideas. I think it's great, and they'll never prove either one of them are fake. So it'll go on again like Patterson and Gimlin's over 50 years, and maybe in 50 years they'll still be arguing about Mark's film. So I think it's great because it sheds light on cryptozoology and gives it popularity again. Yeah, I mean everywhere you look, there's tons of YouTubes and social medias on this now, and pretty much Patterson and Gimlin was kind of like kind of a boring subject, like, oh, we've heard it all 100 times, but now there's this whole new door opening up of mystery, and I think it's great.
Richard, you want to say?
The existence of Sasquatch doesn't stand or fall on the veracity of this film.
Right, that's true. And even if it's not going to prove anything, it might sway people one way or another. It's not going to prove anything, and it's like the area of Bluff Creek and Willow Creek. I mean, there's going to be more tourists than ever probably now because it's.
So I'm saying that if a Rembrandt painting is found to be a hoax, there's no such thing as Rembrandt.
Yeah, that's true. Right. Yeah.
And these things are seen all over the world, on every continent except Antarctica.
Right. Yeah, you've done all that research in those other places, and seen the same things. But yeah, I think it's great that he's doing it. Actually, I mean, even if this Mark guy, even if he's like being over dramatic or anything like that, it doesn't matter because he's still opening up new doors into cryptozoology, and people who weren't interested at all will get involved, and people who are into it will find a new point to argue about. And it's in this fertile ground of argument that people come up with new ideas and inspire other people to go looking.
I'm just looking forward to seeing the documentary.
Yeah, me too.
I think all of it. I think all 6 of us are.
What kind of animals live in that area then?
Oh, in this area here?
Yeah.
Oh, well, there's moose, porcupine, raccoons, deer, elk, Sasquatch.
And raccoons use
Humans.
tools. Do raccoons use tools?
Yeah, they do. Actually, it's like an
They
otter.
did, yeah.
Otters use them too, and crows.
And any bears out there?
Yeah, they have a rare grizzly bear wanders through once in a while, and we have black bears. A lot of black bears. But it's kind of interesting. This is one of Dr. Meldrum's contentions: is there's for every 500 black bears, there's one Sasquatch. That was Meldrum's calculations, based on the environment and the ecozones and that kind of thing. So I spend almost all my time in the wilderness because it's basically right out my back door is the wilderness, like, a couple feet away, and then it's just trails. And then the Spokane River's right behind me. and then it flows from Lake Coeur d'Alene, and from that, it's all the Montana rivers run into that. So, I mean, this is as good as any to find wild animals. We have moose and elk come wandering through. Not very often, but sometimes we do. But anyway, yeah. But back to Meldrum's study about the bears. So there's 500 bears for every 500 bears, one Sasquatch in his calculation. So of 12 years in this area, riding around and walking around, I've seen 2 bears. So if there's one Sasquatch for every 500 bears, there's not very likely that anyone's going to see a Sasquatch unless it's by happenstance. Because there's in the BFRO website, there's only 2 sightings in this general area where I live, and one's from like 1969 was a highway patrolman saw one, and then one lady got pulled over for a ticket, and she said she saw a Sasquatch chasing a deer. So she was so intent on watching that she crashed her vehicle. So that's only 2 people in like 50 years has actually said they've seen them. So
So where you live, are there caves and things like that, or
there's some caves, but they're not the type of caves that go way into the rocks like they do in like karst topography or limestone topography. Here it's just like they had what they call the Missoula flood, which was this giant ice dam from the glaciers. And when the glaciers melted a certain amount, this giant flood of tons and tons of billions of tons of water came all through the Northwest and just flattened their thing. And then all it was left was like a decomposing granite type rock. I forgot where we were at. What you asked me?
I was just trying to work out really to ascertain if there was a Sasquatch where it could be hiding.
I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah.
So that's
okay,
why
the caves in this area are what
and
they
various
are.
things like that.
Like if you were an archaeologist and you were studying Native American prehistory, like before contact period with settlers and stuff, you would say they're called rock shelters. So basically, you'll have, when the flood went through, it took massive boulders, set them up like this, and then another massive boulder here, and then in between here is almost like a cave, but it's shallow. So there's enough for the Native Americans could go in there, or the Clovis people before that could go into these rock shelters, which are like caves, but they're not like deep into the rocks. They're like more like fissures or cracks that go through these granitics. So there is like rock shelter type caves, but there's no stalagmites or stalactites or this kind of thing, or blind cave fish, anything you associate with kerplunking or cave, caves. So there's rock shelters in this area, and all through the 1800s there was gold and silver mining. So you get a lot of abandoned mines and things like that. And, and they have old railroad trestles that are abandoned with railroad, bridges. I'm not bridges, but, the caverns, the railroad, when they dig. How the railroads go through mountains through the tunnels.
Yes.
So there's abandoned railroad tunnels. So there's all kinds of places they could be. And then
out there.
Do you still have wolves out there?
Oh,
Rex?
wolves, yeah. See, the thing is they had the Idaho timber wolf, and so what they did is, I think it was the last decade, they brought in the Canadian wolves and released them here, and Alaskan wolves, and released them all through the Northwest, and they populated, and they wanted it sort of to balance out. This is really not a good subject because if you're a farmer, a rancher, a cattleman, or sheepman, they don't like wolves, right? and even the hunters, because the wolves will kill a full grown moose and eat the baby out of it and leave the moose as meat. So like wanton waste, but and they carry uh, what is it? I think it's I can't remember the name of the disease, but it's
Rabies?
no, it's a disease that makes their hoofs rot away.
Oh, like foot and mouth.
Yeah, so the wolves carry diseases and spread them to other species, but I mean it really is kind of a conundrum because you see the wolves out there. They the first thing they did is decimate the coyotes because canines don't like other canine species. So the first thing they do is they'll kill all the wolves. The wolves come in, they kill the native wolves, and they made the Idaho wolf, timber wolf, extinct. And then they killed most of the coyotes, and then they killed the foxes and stuff. And they're working on the domestic dogs. But so it got to be such a problem that they had to fly over in helicopters and put a bounty on the female wolves because wolves the head of the pack is always a female. So they find that the head of the pack and take it out, and then the other then they'll leave the area and look for a new pack. So it got to be a pretty when they tried to play Mother Nature and it didn't work. So we still have a lot of wolves, but they're not the ones that are supposed to be here. And when we had a really high population of wolves um, before the full colonization here, um, there was no fences. There was no. See, right now, anytime the river opens up and there's flat spots with meadows where all the deer and the elk and the moose graze, all those places are filled with housing projects now. So the animals that used to live in these meadows along the rivers are now living in the back mountains where they're never meant to live. So these ungulates are living in wolf territory and getting decimated really when they used to live, here. So the um, the expansion of development and in combination with the wolves and everything is hard. It's pretty hard on the environment. But yeah, there's still wolves and mountain lions, bobcats, and stuff.
I want to see the wolf and the brown bear and the lynx brought back to Britain.
Yeah. Well, didn't you guys try to introduce the bison?
There is a project in Kent at the moment that they are reintroducing in a selected area European bison.
Right.
And that seems to be going very well indeed. I was watching a documentary about that last night. Did you see that, Richard? Have you followed that?
No, I've not seen it. No.
Okay. Well, have a look on this week's episode because Cookie's on again. Cookie's talking about the rewilding of European bison and moose. There's a project to bring moose back to the what's it called, Norfolk Broads, which is absolutely fantastic.
Well, they were successful here in reintroducing the beaver population was low because the wolves were eating them. So they actually parachuted beavers out of airplanes into all these canyons and all up and through the really dense wilderness areas where people don't usually go. Like I was saying, the Bob Marshall Wilderness and stuff is complete wilderness, no roads or anything. And what transpired was these beavers built dams on all these little creeks and rivers and revived all nature. I mean, these places that were like all dry and desolate are now thriving with native plant species coming back and other species of animals thriving, all because these beavers are all this water was just rushing out, going into the river and then eventually to the ocean. And these beavers have got the water trapped up in these canyons, and it's just wonderful for the environment.
Actually, I was just going to say before you mentioned it, they've just started reintroducing beavers to England, and England it's really thriving because of these beavers. They're like nature's ecologists, aren't they? They're really, really good at making an area that was barren into something that's quite and that as well as a red squirrel I read today is back on the rise. Our native squirrel is a red squirrel,
Uh-huh.
and they are coming back as well. The American squirrels I think were introduced in the I'm not sure when, but they were introduced back in the day, and they killed all the red squirrels.
Oh, wow.
But the red squirrels are on the way back. Jonathan will know more about it.
It's not that it's actually a fallacy that they killed all the red squirrels. The main thing is that the American gray squirrel carries a disease called squirrel pox, to which they are mostly immune, but the red squirrel isn't.
Ah.
And so it was actually squirrel pox that mostly wiped out the red squirrel in England. But they
Yes.
are slowly on the way back.
We already have the wild boar back in England as well, and the eagle owl is returning as well.
It's brilliant, isn't it? It really is really good.
Yeah, but it's bears and wolves I want to see back more than anything.
Well, I was talking about the show that's on Saturday. Cookie believes that lynx are already here, that they've been what he calls gorilla rewilded, which always makes me think somebody's going to rewild gorillas, which completely confused me when he started talking about gorilla rewilding. But apparently he's got evidence that there are lynx in the Cairngorms, and we've got evidence, haven't we, Richard, that they're in the Forest of Dean. And
And that
sorry,
Stephen Stephen Strufert we were talking about before in the Bluff Creek project was the project where they were trying to locate the location of the filming of the Patterson Gimlin film. Well, they put up hundreds of game cameras in that area for years, and they came up with all kinds of animals. Well, not all kinds, but several animals, I think, that were completely thought to be extinct were found on those game cameras, and that's one of the things Stephen was frustrated about was years and years with all these game cameras, no Sasquatch, but they identified some types of like mink and things up in that area that were supposed to be extinct.
I believe it was fishers, wasn't it? Was one of the things that
Yeah.
they rediscovered. Fishers. I've always wanted to see a fisher. For those of you who don't know, a fisher is like a pine marten writ large.
Yeah,
You can
Martin.
imagine a pine marten that's 4 foot long rather than 18 inches long.
Yeah, I have a funny story about one of those. I was fishing right down here on the Spokane River once with my wife and my dog, and I had a cell phone and it was in a leather pouch from my belt buckle. So it was sitting there, and I went back to get my phone, and it was missing. And then here comes this. I guess it was a some kind of little animal like that. What was it? My dog's not answering. What was that thing? It was like a mink, and it was swimming down the river, and it had my phone in its mouth.
Wanted to make a call.
Yeah, I guess wanted to call his mother-in-law or something, but it was the funniest thing.
But
Weasel,
did you
I guess it
get
was
your
some kind of
phone
weasel.
back?
It's in the weasel family anyway.
I've always been fascinated by the weasel family. I saw a fisher once in Canada, but it was dead roadkill, an enormous bloody thing. I had no idea they grew so big.
The yellow-throated martin takes down full-grown deer, jumps out of trees and tears them.
You're kidding.
Yellow-throated martin kills deer, yeah. And if you look online, there's loads of film of them in India killing langur monkeys by biting them in the throat.
Good Lord. Well, they've recently rediscovered the yellow-throated martin in Hong Kong, where it's been absent for about 90 years. And they got records of it there within the last 10 years when it hadn't been seen since the beginning of the last century, which is absolutely wonderful. So, what's the next stage in your research then, Ray?
Well, I started a new project, and I think I talked to you about it last year, but I was my grandfather was a cowboy. He wouldn't like that term. He was a cattleman. He raised cattle, and he was in World War I, and he was in the Fighting Tigers 74th Aero Squadron in England. So he fought for the British, with the British, and then he met my grandma there, and she was British, and then they came and started a cattle ranch here. And so anyway, so I've always been around horses and whatnot. So I just I guess it was 2 years ago I started have a rodeo lessons to brush up on roping. And my idea was if I could get close enough to a Sasquatch and rope one.
Yeah.
And there was a program here that used to be on called Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. And the guy on that show, this was like in the 60s or 70s, it was a long time ago. But on the show, I don't remember the guy's name, Melvin or something. Anyway, the guy who ran the show, his idea was to rope a grizzly bear because the Spaniards, when they came into California, one of their hobbies, the Caballero cowboys, one of their hobbies was to rope the California grizzly bears and sell them to zoos and, that kind of thing. So the guy on the show, Marlon Perkins was his name. He brushes up on his rodeo skills and he ropes a grizzly bear. And that was in the 60s. So I says, if this guy can rope a grizzly bear, and these Spaniards were roping grizzly bears, how much worse could it be to rope a Sasquatch, especially a fat one or a retarded one or a little one, something, not a full grown, Olympic wrestler type Sasquatch. So that's one of the reasons I was riding all through the woods. I was just, if I could just stand down by one of these things and then rope it. And then, so that was my idea. So until my wife put a stop to that, but the closest I got was, I was outside of Kalispell, Montana, which is northwest Montana. And I heard something come through the bushes and it was snorting like a hog. And I could tell it was big because every time it stepped, it would break branches and stuff. And this has got to be a bull squatch. So, and when you're up in the woods, everything's a squatch, and, you hear a bird. Oh, that squatch is trying to sound like a bird. It's just like the TV shows. Your brain is completely crazy. But so I heard it and then it was getting closer and closer and my adrenaline was pumping. So I wasn't even thinking. So I just, okay, I got to get all the things, my horse is all trained because in roping, like calf roping and stuff, the horse does most of the work. It's a special saddle and the horse knows to back up and keep the rope taut and all this kind of stuff. So I was like, my horse is named Lena. And I said, okay, Lena, here it comes. We're either going to be squatch food or we're going to catch this thing. So I go backing up. I'm getting ready. I got a nice area where I can swing the rope and get it into a noose. And out comes this big moose. And so Lena, she's the horse. She just looks at it. She's, I don't want any part of this. She just went balls out of there. But,
Oh, poor Lena.
I was getting rubbed against branches and sticks and trees. And She was just, she didn't want any part of that moose. Which moose do, they kill people out here, and yeah. So anyway, some of them are huge. It's like some of them are like Clydesdale horse size. I mean, they're really big. This
Wow.
one wasn't quite that big, but it was big enough where he could have taken us on. So luckily, I didn't throw the hoop.
That reminds me of the film The Valley of Guanji when the cowboys are trying to lasso a Tyrannosaurus.
Yeah, right, exactly like that. Yeah, that's right. So anyway, that's yeah. I would have rather had a claymation squatch than that moose, but anyway, that was the most exciting squatching I've ever done. But I was, it's so funny because it's just like that TV show. Every sound when you're up there and you're looking for one, everything is one. Oh, I smelled something. It's got to be a squatch. I see something, I hear something. So, I know it's kind of a mental illness, I'm sure, but but anyway, I almost lassoed one, but it wasn't one. So, but if it was one and I would have got it, I think we would have probably had them. But then, yeah, my wife said that's enough of that. I made the mistake of telling her the moose story. So
Yes, one should I think the secret of a happy marriage is not to tell the truth.
yeah, keep your mouth shut. Yeah, more ways than one. Yeah, keep that mouth shut. Be no problems.
David, my
Yes,
North American geography is really rubbish. So, but how far away are you from where Ray is?
Oh, probably about 18 hours driving.
What's that in miles ish?
Is that by car?
2,000 kilometers, 1,600 miles, 1,200 miles.
Oh, I didn't realize it was so far. Like I said, my knowledge of North American geography is
We're big over here.
the only
Yeah,
reason I know where Iowa is was because yesterday
Actually, Iowa's not that far.
I had to look to see what time zone you were in, you see.
What time zone are you in, right?
Just Pacific Standard Time.
You're Pacific Standard. That's what I thought you'd be.
Yeah,
Over
pretty
there.
much the whole West Coast, I think, is that, and then up into the the second states. But yeah, just to get to Washington State, I'm in what they call the Panhandle of Idaho, which is a real narrow strip that goes up to Canada, and
Yeah.
I'm pinched between Montana and Washington State. So Washington State's the most famous state besides California for the Bigfoot research. But if I want to go to the biggest city is Boise, Idaho, and that's almost a 2-day drive. So
You're in Idaho, right?
yeah, the biggest city is
I'm
actually
sorry, I said
Spokane,
Iowa. I got it mixed up.
Idaho. Yeah, it's huge. I mean, it's huge long. It's not wide, because I can go from Washington State across Idaho into Montana in one day,
I was wondering because
and that would be east to west.
Dave has had experience Sasquatching in Canada, and I was wondering, Dave, are your experiences similar?
I'm my big ones were Area F, and those were whoops. But the very first whoop I heard, we were sitting in the van, and I went, "Oh crap, skunk!" We never even thought of it being something other than a skunk. And then we heard the whoop. Of course, I'm an idiot, so I went right towards it. Then we got the rock throw. But that area was probably the best spot for me. But there hasn't been anything there in 2 years now.
Yeah, in Canada, I've heard a lot of the Indians talking about rock throws. Thomas Seward. Do you know Thomas Seward? He's from up that way somewhere. But anyway,
Sounds familiar.
yeah, he's an Indian on Vancouver Island, and he talks about the rock throwing and Sasquatch seal hunting with rocks and clubs.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
I'm
But-
32 hours away, John, and it's 3,412 kilometers.
Wow.
Yeah,
Between
The,
you
the,
two.
the only thing
between
I've
me and
ever,
Ray.
the only
Okay,
thing
that
I've seen.
bang goes my suggestion you two collaborate on something. I had no idea you were so far apart.
Yeah,
Everything's far, but
yeah,
the,
nothing's close.
yeah, I was I found this one spot that someone said that I should go look at when I was really doing more squatching than now. But so I got in a kayak and I went across this lake to this area. There wasn't too many people going up there and whatnot, but so I started back there and I forgot my bear spray and my firearm. And I'm walking up this canyon and I started finding all these bones all over the place, you know, deer bones and elk bones and things like that. And I said, "Oh, where's my bear spray?" And I didn't have my, forgot my bear spray. So I started heading back to the kayak so I could go back across the lake. And I didn't hear anything, but a mushroom or toadstool or whatever it was, I think it was a mushroom about that big, hit me in the back of the neck. And it wasn't like the soft kind, it was kind of a hard one that grows on the side of these rotten wood. And so something or someone threw a real sizable mushroom and hit me in the back of the neck.
You inviting you for dinner?
Yeah. Mushroom stew, and I was the meat.
Yeah. He's garnishing you.
Yeah, and anyway, so I left. Then I came back later and I was more prepared. This time I didn't forget water or bear spray and all the stuff that I always forget. So I went back up and then I walked up in that canyon. I found a tent that was completely torn apart and the sleeping bag all torn apart. There was people's shoes everywhere. So it looked really like something bad had happened. So I called the sheriff's department. I told him what happened, and he said, "Oh, what happened is there was homeless people living in there, and we went in and run them out and smashed all their stuff." But in my mind, you know, this vicious bull squatch came through and thrashed everybody.
Yep.
When you're standing there in the woods, you're thinking that, you know, you're thinking, "Oh, I can feel someone looking at me," but there wasn't. It was just, but it was kind of funny because they knew exactly what I was getting at. This isn't Alaska, and we don't have killer squatches here. But
Yeah, but your squatches out west are a little bit more aggressive, I think.
mm,
If you look at the reports from east or west to east, they seem to get less aggressive as they come across the continent.
yeah. Well, what I heard about from that Thomas Seward Indian guy, he said that the killer Sasquatch thing is all a myth.
Yeah,
He said that he's been in that area quite a bit, and he said that basically what happened is historically there was a downturn in the economy, so everyone left the mining town, and then later there was this you know, all the stories about people getting run off by a Sasquatch and murdered and stuff. But it was basically an economic turn that
yeah,
caused
Portlock.
Portlock, exactly.
Yeah, and Chatham, yeah. Yeah, it's the fishery crash, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was an industry thing, not a giant Sasquatch, from what I understand.
I have a friend that lives in Alaska, and I keep on joking I'm going to go to Portlock and he can come down and meet me. He flat out refuses. He goes, "No, I'm not going near that place."
Well, that's on the Kenai Peninsula, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because my son worked there for a while for the Forest Service or the National Parks. I don't know, one of the things.
Yeah.
And yeah, he said that the Indians believe in the Sasquatch, but they don't really talk about it that much.
Yeah.
But he said he was on one fishing boat, and the lady that was the fishing captain said that she wasn't into any weird mythologies or anything like that, but she said as clear as day, the fishing boat was coming up towards one of these islands, and right on the beach there was a gorilla eating cockle shells, clams, and whatever kind of cockle shells they have. And
Yeah.
she said it was as clear as day, and she said it just looked like a scraggly, like a really scraggly ape eating cockle shells. And so he said it was believable, but he hadn't seen anything. But
That'd be fun, though.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh, it's a beautiful area with the killer whales and the whales and all that.
Yeah. I could be a bit dumb, so I can go, oh, I want to pet it, I got pictures for John.
Yeah, with the grizzly bears and stuff. Well, Canada has a lot of grizzlies too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because Montana has them. But so when I'm in Montana, I'm always a little leery about camping out. But
So you got to remember your bear spray.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's right.
we don't go to Northern Ontario. You don't do it without it, no matter what you're doing.
Yeah.
If you're just going for a hike, you take bear spray,
Well, sometimes I'll wake up in the morning and outside my tent there's the giant footprints, not Sasquatch, but grizzly bears.
Yeah.
I mean, they're amazingly huge.
Yeah.
The claws are like inches long. They could easily they do rip people's heads off.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
Like
they
that
had a
guy who was
fisherman
living with
here,
the bears.
I
Where
think
was
it was
that?
last year, the year before, where he was fly fishing, and he got between the grizzly bear and a moose he had killed and hidden up beneath the riverbank. And as soon as the fisherman got near that moose, the grizzly bear chopped his head off.
Yeah.
They said they found the guy's body and it was holding the bear spray in his hand.
Yeah. Yeah, I just listened to the video on that yesterday, the day before.
Oh, that same.
That same story, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it was real big out here.
Yeah.
Because we don't get them very often. We had one, I think 2 years ago, and it was walking around on the golf course. And then 5 years ago, I had a close call with a grizzly bear that I was actually deer hunting, and then the Fish and Game came up and told me to leave the area because there was a rogue collared grizzly, which means it had a collar from Yellowstone Park and it had escaped. And they said it's probably within like 30 yards of you right now.
Ooh.
And I said, okay. And just as it was a female Fish and Game, and just as she was telling me that and told me to leave, and the sun had not yet come up too much, I didn't have a flashlight or anything. So I started to walk out of there, and she said, well, let me have this guy escort you out of the area. And this guy on one of those quad motorcycles came up, and he had a huge 50 caliber rifle.
Yeah.
And he was some kind of like military guy or something, Fish and Game type. So anyway, so he escorted me out of there, and about 10 feet after he started escort, I could smell the bad breath of the bear.
Mm-hmm.
They eat the meat and it rots in their teeth and it stinks. Yeah. And then they say Sasquatch stink too. Yeah. So of course, when I got home, I was thinking, what if it wasn't a grizzly? What if there was a Sasquatch in the area? So my mind.
Because they just wanted you out of there.
Yeah. Which I guess it could have been. But yeah, who knows? But I was lucky that guy was there. It probably would have eaten me.
Well, guys, we've done it again. Where has the last hour and a half gone? We have 2 minutes left. Thank you very much for coming on, Ray.
Yes, thank you, Ray.
Oh, thank you it was great meeting you guys. I've seen all your guys' articles and posts and whatnot.
It's been an absolute delight to have you on, and hopefully you'll come on again sometime soon, and we can just continue this conversation.
Yeah, that'd be great. Richard's got all those stories about going into those other places and doing the research is pretty fascinating.
You're going again this year, aren't you, Richard?
Well, we were planning to go to Flores this year to look for Homo floresiensis,
Yeah.
but because of the war in the Middle East, thanks to Trump, it might be a bit difficult. So we don't know if we're going to do it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We might instead head down to South America to look for giant anacondas.
Ooh, cool.
We're not sure yet. We don't know.
Well, if you do go down to South America again, I think you need to start collecting the red-faced pygmy stories
Yeah.
because
Mm.
those are utterly fascinating.
Oh, one last thing, not to get on Richard's time, but that there's one thing you could look up is the giant salamander in Bluff Creek. That's another mythological type thing.
Oh,
That's
that's
just
something
wanted to
very.
throw. You just
I'm
reminded me of.
fascinated by those stories. I knew, Rich, the
Yeah,
California giant salamander.
yeah, they could be related to the hellbender and the Chinese giant salamander and the Japanese giant salamander.
Lee, I'm sorry that you feel so ill. Thank you for being so brave and steadfast and carrying on through the show, even though I know you're feeling like death. All of you, thank you for coming. Thank you for being such a brilliant panel. And all of you out in the audience, Nettie, I didn't really get the chance to say, hi, Nettie's with us. But hi, Nettie, if you're still there. And I'm going to be back next Wednesday with Vivian,
Brilliant.
and we'll be back next month. At the moment, next month's guest is going to be Bill Rebsamen, the cryptozoology artist. Trouble is, I seem to have done a real boo-boo there. I've booked 2 guests for next month. So it'll either be Bill Rebsamen, the cryptozoology artist, or it'll be Richard Muirhead talking about his new book about crocodile sightings, or I'll have both of them on, and it will be complete chaos.
All right.
This show and complete chaos quite often inhabit the same space. So thank you very much, my dears. God bless you all, and we will see you very soon.
Nice seeing you.
Thank you, everybody. Nice
Bye-bye.
being-
Time to go home, time to go home from your simply spooky adrenaline ride. Time to go home, time to go home, even if you're terrified. Goodbye. Time to go home, time to go home. Vivian and her weird friends are all going home. Time to go home, time to go home. Vivian is waving goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.